Yesterday's class we have started with the OOPS concept. We have talked about the class, object, then methods. Okay, so these are three things which we already covered. Now in today's class we will continue with that. Okay, so now you already know what is class, how to create class, what is the object, and how to create the object from the class. Okay, then you know how to create the methods. Okay, how to create the variables in a class, how to access that variables or that methods. Okay, now the today's topic is the extension to the methods. Okay, we now seen the basics of the methods. Now we need to understand very much important concept which we call it as a method overloading. Okay, so we will understand what is method overloading, then how it work. Okay, then what is the method signature, what is automatic promotion, and then maybe we will see some tricky scenarios, okay, related to the method overloading. So let's start with this. So very first, let me just open the whiteboard. Let me just delete this. Okay, so very first let's start with the method signature. Okay, and then maybe we will talk about the method overloading. Okay, so very first let's understand the method signature. Anyone heard about the method signature before? Anyone? No? So see, what is method signature? So we already know how to write the method. Let's suppose I have one class and I want to write the method. How we can write? Let's suppose I want to create one add method. So how we can write? I can write like public, maybe static, void, add, right? And then here maybe we can write anything. Okay, so this way we usually create the method. Okay, maybe in some methods we will have the parameters, maybe for some method this return type will be different, maybe for some method the static keyword will not be there, or this public like access specifier will not be there. Okay, so that will be the changes, but mostly the method will be this way. Okay, so now we need to understand what is the method signature. Okay, so if we have the method like this, then in the signature or method signature, what are the things we have? In the method signature only we have the method name and the parameters which we have passed to the method. Okay, so now if we talk about this method, we don't have any parameter. So in this method signature only the method name will come. Okay, and here we don't have any parameter, so parameters will not be there. Now let's suppose I have one more method here, public, then void, add, and here I want to add two numbers. So here how can we write the method with the parameter? Very first I will pass first number and then maybe I can pass second number, n2, int n2. Okay, and now here maybe we can do just sum is equal to n1 plus n2, this way. Okay, so now here if you talk, this is the default method or without any parameter. Then this method we have created with two parameters. First one of type integer and second one also of type integer. Okay, now if we talk about the method signature for this method, then here the signature will be the method name and then type of parameter. So here the first type is int and second type is int. Okay, so this is called as a method signature. In method signature we never talk about the return type, or even we never talk about any access specifier. If you have here public, maybe private or protected, in the method signature it doesn't consider the access specifier or return type. It will only consider the method name and type of parameters or type of arguments. So here I have the argument int, so it will consider this as a int and then maybe the second parameter. Okay, so that is the method signature. Are we clear? If someone asks you what is the method signature, then will you able to answer the question? Everyone?
Yes.
You got it, right? Pitambari, are you able to understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is very important. Okay, you must understand this thing, because in the method overloading, okay, this is like this will be the important topic. Drawing mode, not drawing mode, I want whiteboard mode. Okay, so now you know what is method signature. So if we have method, then in the method signature only two things will be considered: one as a method name and second as a type of parameter, even if this return type is also not considered in the method signature. Okay, now if I just open this and delete this thing. Now let's suppose here I have one method, um, public void, okay, add int n1 and int n2. Okay, so this is one method I have. Okay, after that I have the another method. Let's suppose public int add, then here first parameter will be of type integer, so let's take it as n1, and then second parameter is also of type integer, so let's take it as n2. Okay, now here as this is my return type, I always have to return, right? If I don't return anything, then it will give me a compile time error, we already seen yesterday. So what it will return? It will return the addition of these two numbers, so it will return maybe n1 plus n2, right? So now here also we have some statement. Let's suppose sout means system.out.println, and here I will just print n1 plus n2. Okay, so these are two methods I have. Let's suppose in my class, we can say the class name as a test. Okay, so inside the test class I have these two methods. Okay, now I have my main method. Okay, public static void main, and here like string args, right? So this is my main method. Here we have public static void. Okay, now inside this main method, if I want to access this add or this add, then how we can access? Very first we need to create the object of this class, right? Then through that object we can access or we can call these methods. So very first, how to create the object? First we need to write the class name, then maybe the object of the class name, or name, you can say the name of the object. So here I will give object as a name, then new keyword we will be used to create the object, and then your class name. Okay, so this way you can create the object. Now you have the object of this test class and you want to call this method. Okay, so how we can call? We can use this object reference, then dot, then which method you want to call. So here I want to call add method. Okay, and here I want to pass two parameters, as we want to do the summation of two numbers. So let's suppose I will pass first parameter as a 2 and second parameter as a 3. Okay, so this is my code I have, and here my class test will end. Okay, so now here if you see, what do you think, like what output we will get? Can anyone answer? Let's make the class a bit interactive. Okay, so let's try to interact me. Maybe English, Marathi, Hindi, any language will be like okay, but just interact. Okay, even if you don't know, you can just try by like just analyze the this code, and you just thought like what will be the output. Anyone want to try? if we have the code like this in our IntelliJ, what will be the output of this? Anyone want to try, or should I go?
And it will not print anything. It will just have some value n1 plus n2, but it will not print.
So here we have this statement. Okay, so sout means system.out.println. So system.out.println we use to print some values, right?
Yes.
Yes, so here I just return the shortcut, but sout means here I am trying to return like system.out.println, and here this n1 plus n2 will be there. Now do you want to change your output? What do you think? What will happen now?
Then it might print.
It will print. So okay, very first let's understand. Okay, so let me explain you. See here, very first, whenever we are creating the project, okay, or whenever we are creating the class file to execute, or when we run this class file, okay, this test class, then very first our controller will come to main method, right? So very first our execution will start from the main method. In this main method, very first line is I have created the object of the test class, right? So here I have created the object of this test class. Test object is equal to new test. Okay, now I have the object of the test class. So by using this object, I can access any method or any variables from this test class. Okay, so now here I just called one method. The method is add. Here I have passed parameter 2 and then 3. Okay, so what will happen? Compiler will check for the add method inside this object class. So see here, this object, if you see, this object is coming from here, and if you see here, this object is of type test, right? So it will go in the test class. It will check, do we have any method with the name add and the parameter as a integer, right? So now here if you see, I got like compiler will get this method which is having the name add and having the parameter first as of type integer, second as of type integer. Now it will come to this line. Here also it will see we have one more method with the same name, and also the parameters are same. Only the difference is in the return type. So here it is returning void and here it is returning int, right? But as I already told you about the method signature, so whenever compiler, like how compiler will get to know which method needs to call? Okay, so for that compiler will be using method signature. And now what is the method signature? Method signature means name of the method and type of parameters, right? So here compiler will never check for the access specifier, it will never check for the return type. So here maybe int or here public. So these two things will never check by the compiler. Compiler will only check the method name and type of parameter. So it will check these two things. And now if we see, this add method and this add method are very much similar, right? We don't have any difference here. So now compiler will confused. It will not able to understand which method I should call, right? So like see here, we have exactly same method. So how compiler will get to know that which method he should call, right? So here we will get the compilation error. Okay, so now let's see what compilation error will get. So let me just open IntelliJ and let me create one class. Let's give the name of the class as a method signature example. Okay, so this is my class method signature example. Okay, now what we did here, we created two methods. Okay, so very first method was, let's suppose, public void add, and here I want to add two numbers. So here I will pass n1 and then maybe n2, the second number. Okay, now here I will print the summation of both the numbers n1 plus n2. Okay, now I have created one more method here, public, then int, return type will be int, then method name will be same, and here I am going to pass the same parameters like n1 and n2. Okay, now see here, as soon as I create this second method, see here we are getting the red line. Red line means compile time error. Okay, and what is the compile time error? If I just over here, you will see that, see what it is saying, add method of type int. See here, first parameter is int, second parameter is int, clashes with add and same parameters it is giving. And what it is saying, both methods have same error sure means what, same signature. It is trying to say the signature, both the methods are having the same signature. Then it is saying that the add method with two parameters of type integer is already defined in your method signature example class. Okay, so if I save this and just execute this program. Okay, so to execute the program, first what we need the main method. Without main method we can't execute the program. Okay, so I created the main method. Now I will just right click here and will execute this program. Okay, now we will see the error in detail here. So if I just go above, you will see that, see here the error, just read it, Java method add. Here it is just considering the method name and type of arguments. Here the first argument is of type integer, second argument is also of type integer. Now it is saying that is already defined in a class and this is our class name, right? So why we are getting this error, are you able to understand? Anyone? So let's suppose here I just create the object of this class. Okay, is equal to new object, and now let's suppose obj dot add, and here I will pass 2 and 4. Okay, are you clear with this, like why we are getting the compile time error? Any questions, please raise. Omkar, are you clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Pitambari, this is very much important. In interview also you may get this question, okay? Because this is bit confusing, no? That's the reason this type of questions always expect in the interview. Pitambari, are you clear?
इसमें वो लास्ट वाला एक बार बता मैम, वो पब्लिक स्टैटिक वॉइड मेन वाला.
Okay. So see here, what I did here, I just created one main method. Okay, so see, without main method we can't execute the program, right? For the Java, it is mandatory that in your program or in your class you always have the main method if you want to execute that program. So now if I remove this method which is public static void main, if I save and I want to run the program, if I right click here, see here I don't see any option to run this, or even let's suppose if we go to the terminal. Okay, so this is my terminal. So see here, to execute or to this one, to compile the program we write java c and class name, right? So method signature example dot java. So see here, method add is already defined. Okay, let's suppose save. So we already have here compile time error, so it is giving compilation error. But if you want to execute it, okay, let's suppose java, and here I want to just write this way. See what it is saying, could not find or load main class. This one, this is not able to load this main class. Let me just go here. What I am trying to explain you, Pitambari, that in the Java, if you want to execute any class, okay, then you should always have the main method. Without main method your program will not able to execute. Okay, that is the rule in Java. If you don't have the main method, then you don't have the starting point. Okay, so whenever you execute the program, very much your cursor will go to the main method, and from main method only your program execution will start, right? So now as we want to execute this program, we always need to write the main method. So here I just return the main method. Okay, now here see we have two methods. One is this add method, okay, which is return type is void, and here we have two parameters n1 n2. Now I have created another method with the same name, but here if you see the return type is int. Void means we don't return anything. Int means you should always return here integer value. Okay, now here as I have not returned anything, it is showing the error. What is the error? Missing return type. So here we need to return something, so I will return n1 plus n2. See, as soon as I return it, this error will be gone, which is that compile time error. Okay, now here we are getting the another error, which is saying that here you have tried to create the add method with parameter int and int, but the same method name with the same parameter is already defined in your method signature example class. So this is our class, and in this class we already have this method with these two parameters of type integer. Okay, so if you try to declare the same method, then it will give you the compile time error, because the compiler always check for the method signature. Compiler to differentiate between two methods, it will always check for the method signature. And method signature means what? The method name and type of parameters. So here method name is add, and type of parameters, first type is integer, second type is integer. Here also the method name add, first type integer, second type integer. So both the methods will be very much same to the compiler. Now he will be confused like which one I should call, right? So that's the concept I am trying to explain you. Are we clear now? Now let me just explain you another one thing. So here what I did, see here I have two methods here. Okay, now if I want to call any method of this method signature class, then how we can call? To call the method you need to create the object of this class. And how to create the object of the class? You need to use the class name, then object name. So let's suppose here I will give the name of the object as a obj, and then new and your class name. So this way I have created the object of your method signature example class. Okay, now with the help of this object you can access these methods. Okay, so here I will try to access that method obj dot add with two parameters. So 2 and 5 are the parameters here. Okay, so this way you can try to access the method. But here see here what error you are seeing. You will get ambiguous method call. Ambiguous means what? Confused. Compiler is confused now. Should I go with this method or should I go with this method? Because method name and parameters are exactly same. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
If you have any questions, please let me know. I know this is confusing. Okay, and that's the reason I am spending much time, because this is like very much typical question in the interview. Always they try to like ask this question just to understand how much you know about the oops concept, or how much you know about the method overloading. Okay, everyone is clear? Dipali,
Yes, ma'am.
Nikunj?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now you all are saying yes. Okay, so after this, like maybe in some after some sessions, if I ask the same question, everyone should able to answer the correct scenario. Okay, So I will be definitely asking you the same question just to check how much you are practicing, how much the revision you are doing. Okay, so this is one thing which is related to the method signature. Okay, now let's suppose instead of the int, if I make it float. Okay, see here, as soon as I make it float, okay, or maybe here also I need to check the change the return type. See here, as soon as I change the return type of this method, your error will be gone. Why? Because here we have called the object method, we have called the add method with the parameter integer and integer. It will go in your method signature example class, it will search for the add method. Okay, then here it will go get this add method, then it will check do we have first parameter as a integer, then here we will get first parameter as a integer, then second parameter is also of type integer, so here also we will get a second parameter as of type integer, right? So it will just come inside the method and it will print the addition of this two number. And now here why it is not confused? Can anyone answer why it is not confused? Compiler, why we are not getting any error now? Anyone want to try? Dipali, what do you think?
And because parameters are integers.
Yes.
If we would have given float as parameters, then it would directly go to that float add method.
Yes, yes. So because in the method signature, just a minute. Because in the method signature here, if we see here, very first we have called the add method. Okay, add method, and here we have passed one parameter as an integer and second parameter as an integer, right? Now this is exactly the method signature for which compiler will look into your method signature example class. Okay, now very much first it will see this add method. Okay, now here it will see what is the parameter, we have the parameter integer, then what is the second parameter, we have the parameter of type integer. Now it will check another method, so here also we have the add method, so it will see okay we have the add method. What is the first parameter? Float. What is the second parameter? Integer. Okay, so it will just store this data in the memory. Okay, for the compiler will store all these details in the memory. Now as soon as you call this method, it will check in the memory, okay, where all the details are available. It will check do I have anything matching with this signature. Now if you see here, we got the match, right? Because here also method name is add and also the types are integer and integer, so it will be like very much clear that I need to call this method. Okay, that's the reason it is not confused now. But here it is different, right? Float, but now instead of float, if I make it integer, then again it will not able to understand should I call this one or should I call this one. Okay, so that's the problem. I hope it is clear now. So
Yes.
okay, perfect. Let's delete this now then. Method signature is clear to everyone. Okay, I am assuming that. So now let me just go to the whiteboard. I will just delete this. Okay, now we need to talk about the method overloading. Okay, so see here, what is the topic we want to see is the method overloading. So let's suppose what is the method overloading. Okay, so see, we will be taking the same example to add the numbers. Okay, now let's suppose I want to add two numbers. Okay, or let's take the very simple example. I have one method. Okay, let's suppose to add two numbers only. Let's suppose I have one method to add the number. So here void add, and here I want to add two numbers, so int I maybe or int n1 and then int n2. These are two numbers I want to add. Okay, so here I will just add the number and print. Okay, so this task we are doing by using this add method with two parameters. Okay, so this was the first requirement we have. Now the second requirement came. Okay, what is the requirement? They want to add two floating numbers. Okay, so now if they want to add two floating numbers, what we have to do? We have to create one method void, then maybe add float, right? And here we need to pass, sorry, now here we need to pass two float values, right? So let's suppose float f and float f2. Okay, f1 and f2. So here I have passed two float values, and now here I will print the summation of two floating values. Okay, now let's suppose one another requirement came where they want to add two long numbers. Okay, so for that what we will be doing, again we have to create one more method which will add two long numbers, right? And here we will take two parameters. Very first one is of type long, so L1, and then second one is also of type long, L2, right? So this is another method. Maybe here also I will return void. Okay, so now see here, in all the methods what is the task is to add two numbers. Okay, just a minute. Okay, so here if you see, what is the task is to add two numbers, right? Task is to add two numbers. Okay, now here also we are trying to add two numbers, integer. Here also we are trying to add two numbers, but here we will be adding the floating numbers. And then for the third method we are adding the long numbers. Okay, but if we see, the task or the purpose of all the methods is same. Okay, so now here what Java people think, that why to write the method again and again to perform the same task. Here also we are performing addition of two numbers, and here also addition of two numbers. Only difference is that the parameters are different. Okay, so what they think, that instead of creating the three different methods, here I have created one method add, here I have created one method add float, and then third method is add long. So they think that why to create three different methods just to perform the same task. Okay, so instead of creating these three methods, they have introduced one concept, we call it as method overloading. Overloading means what? You can use the same method name, okay, with different parameters, okay. So now if you see, method overloading means we have the same method name but different parameters. Okay, now you don't have to create this method, you can just create one method and you can just provide a different type of parameters. Okay, and then we call that as a method overloading. For example, if I just delete this, and here if I create now one method, let's suppose void add, then here I will pass two parameters, so int n1 and int n2. Okay, and here I will add. Okay, now I will create, or I will overload the same method. How to overload? Here overload means same method name, so here also I will use the same method name. Only the thing is that you have to use different parameters. Okay, so here let's suppose I have two parameters of type integer, so maybe here I will just use two parameters of type float. So here I will have float f1 and float f2. Okay, so here also I will be just performing the addition of these two floating point numbers. Here I will perform the addition of these two integer type number. Okay, now let's suppose same way I have to add the double values, then I can just use the same method, just I will provide the different type of parameters. So double maybe d1, and here also I can write just double d2. Okay, so this way. Now let's suppose like I have written these three methods inside one class. Let's suppose the class name will be addition example, right? So this is my class, and inside this class I have these three methods. Okay, now if we have written the methods here, if we want to call this method, then we need to create the object of this class, right? So let's suppose here I have my public static void main method. Okay, and here we will be passing string as a argument, string arguments. Okay, and inside this main method we will be creating the object of the addition example class. So addition example class name, then here you can just create the object, you can give any name to your object, and then to create the object you will be using new keyword. Okay, and then here your class name. So addition example, this way we can create the object. Okay, now I want to do the addition of two integer numbers. So how I can write object dot add, and let's suppose if I pass here the value 2 and 5, then what will happen? Very first, whenever we compile our addition dot example class, at the time of compilation only, compiler will maintain one memory area, okay, or we can say stack. In this stack, it will store all the method signatures. Okay, so this is my stack. Okay, let's suppose, let's change the color just to understand. Okay, so this is my stack where the compiler will store all the method signatures. Okay, so here at the time of compilation only, it will create very first one method, which is this one add, and then we have two parameters of type int and of type int, right? Then second method is also add, and here we have parameters float and then float, right? And third method is, let's suppose here add of type double and double, right? So this is the stack area compiler will maintain, okay, in the memory, right? Now this one, now whenever you are writing this way object dot add 2 and 5, so compiler will get to know that it is trying to call the add method of type integer and integer. So immediately it will go to the stack area, it will check do we have any method with the name add and the parameter as a integer. So it will get this method. Okay, so it will call to this method which is having int as a parameter. Okay, now here if I pass object dot add, and here if I pass, let's suppose 2.2 float comma 3.1 float. Okay, so here I am trying to pass both the value of type float. So it will check for the method which is having the parameters of type float. So it will go to this method and this method will get called. Okay, now if we pass the double parameter, let's suppose 2.2 and 1.1, then it will call this method which is having double and double as a parameters. Okay, so this way we can just use the same method name with different method parameters. Okay, or we can just say the method signature should be different. Method signature means what? Method name and type of parameters, right? So here method name should be always same in your method overloading, but the type of parameters or number of parameters should be different. Okay, so that is the definition of method overloading. Are we clear with this? At least the high level concept.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
now let's try to understand it. Okay, so for that let me just create one class here. I will give the name as method overloading example. Okay, so this is my class. Now let's take very much simple example first. Okay, so I will just create one method, maybe void method 1. Okay, this is my method with which doesn't have any arguments. Okay, so I will just print no argument method, right? So this is one method I have. Okay, now I will create the another method. Okay, same name, maybe method 1, and then inside this method 1 I will just try to pass one integer argument. Okay, and here I will see int argument method. Okay, so this is my same method. Like here I have created method 1 without argument, here I have created method 1 with integer argument. Okay, now let's suppose I want to write one more method, void method 1, and here I will pass so maybe string argument. Okay, and here we can just print string arguments. Okay, so see here, method overloading, we are learning method overloading. Okay, so method overloading means same method name and different type of arguments or different number of arguments. Okay, so this is the args, this is the definition of method overloading. So now here I did the method overloading. How? Because here I have used method 1, the same method name, here also same method name, here also same method name. But what is the difference? Difference is that I have different number of arguments. Okay, so first thing, you can have different number of arguments or you can have different types of argument. So here I have one argument of type integer, and in the method 1 here I have different type of argument which is of string. Okay, if you want to overload it again, then you can write void method 1, and here you can just write int I and int j. Okay, so this is also overloading. Why? Because you have same method name but different number of arguments. Here you have two arguments, here you have only one arguments. Okay, so this is method overloading. Here you have integer type argument, here you have string type argument. So your type of arguments are different and your number of arguments are also different. That's the reason this is called as a method overloading. Like, right? Now let's suppose here just print two arguments. Okay, now I want to call these methods. Okay, so how we can call? Very first you need to create the object. Okay, so let's create the main method here, and now let's create the object of our class. The class name is method overloading example. Okay, so now here let's take the object name also as a method overloading example, and then new method overloading example. So this way we can create the object. And now let's suppose here if I do just method overloading dot method 1, see here, as soon as I write method 1, if we go above, see here, your call will come to this line number 5, because compiler will check the method 1 without any parameter, because while calling you have not passed any parameters here, right? So it will directly go to this method and it will print no argument method. If I save this, right click here and run the run the class. Let's see here, you will get no argument method, right? Now let's suppose here instead of this I just pass one string. Okay, let's suppose students. Okay, so this is the string I have passed. Now what will happen? Compiler will see here. This is method overloading example object. This is of type method overloading example. So compiler will go to method overloading example class, which is this. In this class it will check for method 1. Okay, and then it will check, do we have any method with the name method 1 and the parameters are of type string. Okay, so it will go above. See here, it will check this method. So here you have the method name same, but we don't have any parameter, so this will not match. It will go to the second method, which is method 1 with the parameter of type integer. So here the type of parameter is integer and we have passed the type of parameter as a string, so it will not match. Then it will come to here, and here if you see we have method 1 and here the type of parameter is string. So this is the exact match compiler will found, and then it will just go inside this method and it will print string arguments. If I save this and if I execute it, then you will see the output as a string argument. See here, right? So in the method overloading you can use the same method with different parameters and you can just perform the operation based on your requirement. You don't have to change the method name. You can use the same method name. Are we clear with method overloading example? Everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone have any questions? Let me know. If you are not clear, I am going to explain it again. Everyone clear?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So if you are clear with this, okay, then let's try to create the another class. Okay, so let me give the name of the class, maybe new class. Let's give the name of the class as a student. Okay, and let's create one main method. Okay, so see here, let's suppose I have just given the name as a student. We will be use it later. Okay, so now let's suppose here I have one method void, or let's say public void. Let's give the method name as test. Okay, this is my method name. Okay, now here I have the another method public int test. Okay, see here, we are getting the compile time error again. Are you able to understand why this compile time error is coming? Anyone? No? Anyone want to try? See here, it is the same example, right? See here also I have the same method, which is test, without any parameter. Here also I have the same method test without any parameter. Compiler is only checking the method signature, and method signature means your class name and the parameters. Okay, so here it will think that in the student class we have two same method like test and test. Okay, so for the compiler it is like this void int or this public will not make any difference. That's the reason we are getting compile time error here. Are we clear now? Clear, Omkar?
Yes.
Okay, so just keep this in mind.
Yes.
Actually, you are confused, I think, because see, it is the exactly same example which I have explained you. I just wanted to know how much you understand. Okay, so see, whenever you see the same method with a different return type, then you just have to ignore this return type. Okay, because this return type doesn't make any sense at the time of compilation. Compiler only like search for the method and signature, or method name and the type of arguments. Here we have only method test without any argument. Here also we have only test method without any argument. So both the method will be same for the compiler, and it will be confused like which method to call, or it will say that if you already have the test method with the same signature in the student class, then why you are declaring it again, or why you are defining it again? Okay, so that is the error it will give. See here. Okay, let's suppose return 0. Then also see here, it will see that test is already defined in student. Okay, so it is saying that test method is already defined in the student class, then why you are trying to define it again, right? So we cannot have the same method in the like in only one class. We cannot have the same method with the same signature. Okay, now if you write it here something like int I, or maybe if you try to pass some argument here, then it will make a difference, because here the signature is test without any parameter, and now if you see the signature is test with one parameter of type integer, right? So that is the difference, and now it will not complain. Clear? No questions?
No question.
Okay, perfect. So now let's suppose I will just remove this. Okay, and here, or maybe here, I will just try to write the another method. Okay, public void add. Here I will pass int n1 and maybe int n2. Okay, and here I will just write sout n1 plus n2. Okay, now here also I will write the another method public int add, and here I will pass float f1 comma float f2. Okay, and here I will just return, maybe here also I will make it as a float, return f1 plus f2. Okay, and now here I will create the object of student class. Maybe actually I should not give the name as a student. Okay, I will change the name, refactor and rename addition example. Okay, so addition example, addition is equal to new addition example. So this way I have created the object. Okay, now addition dot add method, and here if I pass 10 comma 20. Okay, then what will be the output here? Like which method
20.
will get called, line number 8 or line number 11?
Line number 8, because we have to pass the integer parent.
Integer. Okay, now let's suppose here I am passing the 1.0 f. Okay, and here maybe 2.0 f. Then which method will call?
Line number 10.
11. Okay, this one 10. Perfect. Now let's suppose here, okay, I will just comment this line so that you don't get any guesses from this IntelliJ ID. Okay, now I want to call addition dot, let's suppose here I will call 10, and here I will keep 2.0 f. Now what do you think, which method will get called if I uncomment this line? Just think. Okay, the method line like this method will call or this method will call? Any guesses?
Second.
Second one?
Float. Okay.
Yes. So why do you think second will call?
Float can be casted to integers automatically.
Float can be casted to integer or integer can cast it to float.
Float to integer with some data loss.
Float to integer. Let's open this, just revise this thing. Okay, see here, can we go from float to integer? Can we go, Om?
No.
See, float to integer conversion we can do explicitly with some data loss, but if you see here, am I doing anything explicitly?
No.
Did I used anywhere like this, this one, float, and then maybe here whatever value I have? Like if we want to cast, we have to write this way, right? And here we have to pass the value which we want to cast it. Let's suppose I want to cast the value of I to the float, then I will be casting this way, right? But here I am not casting anything, so implicit casting will be there. And if you see this diagram, this one, right? Sorry, this one. So if you see here casting precedence, okay, you implicit casting will be there. So from byte you can cast, or automatically the casting will go to character. From the byte automatically casting will be there for the short. If you have provided integer and you don't find any integer match in the current file, then it will search for the long, then it will search for the float also. If you have float, then also it will match, because integer can be implicitly casted to float. Why? Because see here, integer have low precedence and float have higher precedence. Okay, so easily you can cast from int to float. Also you can cast from int to long. Why? Because integer size is less than long, and easily you can store the lesser values to the longer values, right? Let's suppose here you want to store some like, or let's go to this one. See, the integer size is 32 bytes, long size is 64 bits. Okay, so if you have some value of size 32 bits, then easily you can store in 64 bits. Even we have taken the example of laptop bags, right? So let's suppose you have the laptop bag. Inside the laptop bag you want to store your mobile, you can easily store, because mobile size is very much less, and that mobile will be easily placed in your laptop bag, because laptop bag is very much bigger, right, in the size. But let's suppose in the same laptop bag, if you try to put the TV, will it properly set in that bag? No. Why? Because the size of TV is much larger than the laptop. So same way you can consider this long as a TV, and maybe this int as your laptop bag. And if you try to store the long values to the int, means here the integer size is 32 bits, and if you try to store 64, it will be overloaded, right? So int will not able to store this much size. Okay, so that's the reason implicit casting will not be there. But if you try to store this integer to long, long is already a longer value which has the most size as compared to the integer. So implicitly integer values will be casted to long, it will be casted to float, and also to the double. But you can't do reverse, you can't store long to integer, right? Are we clear with this,
Yes.
everyone?
Yes.
Perfect. So see here, if you see, your answer was correct that it will call second method. But why? See here, the compiler will sorry, let's save. See here, if I uncomment this, it will search for the add method. Okay, of type integer and of type float. So here if you see, we have first parameter as a integer, second parameter as a integer. Okay, now for the second one we have the first parameter float, okay, and second parameter is float. So second parameter is already matched, but first parameter we have passed integer and we have here we have declared float. Okay, but if you see in our nodes, integer can easily cast it to float. Okay, so here from this int, this 10, from this int it will cast it to float implicitly. Okay, and that's the reason the call will come to line number 10 and it will print the result. Are we clear now why it is coming to
Yes.
this line and not this line? No confusion now?